Should you teach your dog obedience training or commands? Have you ever thought, oh, it'd be nice to teach them this, or it'd be nice to teach them that, or it'd be ideal for them to know this in certain situations? Well, in this video, we're going to talk about why it might not be so beneficial and where it can be. Hey, what's up, guys? So my name is Stuart. For those who don't know me, I'm a young professional working in a corporate environment here in London, and I own a 2-year-old lab mix dog whose basically channel is all about training, all about our day-to-day lives, and questions like these, questions that may sound obvious at the beginning, especially for me, it sounded obvious at the beginning, but then maybe after a while, it wasn't as obvious. And we're gonna walk through that in this video. Some of the reasons why you might not want to teach your dog obedience training or commands. One, a lot of the times it can lead to frustration. I think a lot of early owners, a lot of people who've just gotten their dogs are really eager to learn, to know, how do I get my dog to sit? How do I get my dog to wait before I let them eat? How do I teach my dog to lay? How do I teach my dog to bang bang and die on the floor? How do I teach my dog to paw? All of those tricks, commands, I guess, can lead to some form of frustration on both the dog side and the owner. A lot of the times when you are doing those types of trainings, in general, that get dogs, do that at the beginning, so a couple of months old and stuff. And then after a short time, they get frustrated because they used to know how to do it when they were puppies, and then after a couple of months, maybe even a year, they've completely forgot. They don't listen. And the main reason is because they're growing, they're still developing. Apollo's 2 years old now. He's just starting to relax to get how things work and stuff. So a lot of the time, that's the main reason why it can cause frustration. The second thing is high expectations. A lot of dog owners, and I'm going to say this about myself, when I first got Apollo, I said, he's going to be the best dog I've ever had. I've had dogs in the past when I was younger, but those dogs that I had before, were very much free range. We didn't really train them, we didn't really do much of them. They were with us all the time and stuff like that, but they were very much left to their own devices. They done whatever they wanted a lot of the time. So when I first got him, I had these high expectations. I've done all the research I need to do. I've looked at all these videos, boom, 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 boom. But bottom line is that those high expectations are sometimes a bit too high, and sometimes you just need to calm down a little bit. Just bring your expectations back to reality. Those high expectations, and especially again when you first have your dog or your puppy, it's quite hard to see the end of where your expectations are. My thought process was, I'm gonna have Apollo, he's gonna be the best dog, I'm not gonna have a lead on him at all. When he, by the time he's 7-8 months, I don't need a lead on him, he just listen to me, blah blah blah. That's not the case. And I think a lot of the time those high expectations come from social media, from videos that you see where people have these dogs to heel in public places, or walking, doing all of these commands, down, sit, stay, retrieve, all of those to like the T. But the reality is, it will take a lot of hard work, and you need to come to that realization that having a dog isn't just to train them for a little bit and then leave them. The third reason I'd say why it might not be such a good idea is because in some certain situations, especially with reactive dogs, if your dog is reactive, if they're reactive not only to other dogs, maybe to other things, humans, bikes, all of this, teaching them a command and trying to make them do a command in that situation can cause them to become even more anxious, can cause them to maybe even go off the rails, can maybe cause you to go off the rails, maybe cause you to have frustration. In your mind, he should know this, or the dog should know this. Yeah, it might know it in a certain situation, like if the park is empty or at home, but if a trigger is happening then and there, and you're asking the dog to do something, more likely than not, he's not going to do it, or he's going to get like kind of flustered or confused or jittery. Or in those situations, it's more beneficial to teach the dog how he should react or how he should act around that environment. However, it's not all doom and gloom. I I also think there are good situations on when commands and obedience training does come into hand. Some of the examples I have are real life examples. So I'll give you guys some pros to teaching dogs commands and stuff. So the first one is it's a great way to build your relationship with your dog. If you're training, it doesn't even have to be that long, 5 minutes a day, 10 minutes a day. It's a great way to build you and your dog's bonds. And even more so if you're feeding them through your hands, dinner or breakfast, and doing that exercise, your bond will become a lot more stronger just by doing those simple 5-10 minutes. The second thing is it's mentally and physically stimulating for the dog. If you can see in one of my previous videos, I just taught Apollo how to go around a tree or around an object, and that's something that he hasn't done before. And I could tell after that training session he was tired, more tired than usual. He normally comes home and he's tired and he sleeps throughout the day, but that day in particular you could tell he was even more tired. So teaching them new commands, reinforcing those commands, teaching them something new can build obviously your relationship, their confidence, but it can also help you in maintaining their levels of excitement at home, because you're obviously stimulating them mentally, so they're going to have to relax and chill out and sleep. The third thing that I would say is a good thing on command training, obedience training, is they know what is expected of them. It's a way of you communicating to them, right, this is what I need you to do in this moment in time. And that's a perfect way to communicate. Yes, there's a way for you to communicate with a lead, but at home, he's not, unless he's a puppy, he's not going to have a training lead at home. So for them to know what the certain command is a way for you guys to communicate between each other, for him to understand, okay, it's dinner time, go to place. Or you're in the kitchen and you don't want him to be in the kitchen, place. It's time for bed, crate. Those commands are obviously your way of saying, right, time for bed now. It's time for you to go to crate. It's easier for that, because other than that, I actually don't know what I would do to get him into the crate. Am I supposed to just wait for him to just naturally go there? There's most likely he won't. He likes to sleep in the living room. So yeah, it's just an easy way for you to communicate with your dog. Number 4, it can help you in situations that are unfamiliar. So I'll give you a practical example of when this happened. We were on a train on the London Tube and it was packed, ultra packed. And we've started to slowly introduce him to the trains, and now he's fine, he's completely good. But because it was an unfamiliar situation to him, and having all of these people, before we'd go early in the morning to the train to ease him in, right, this is the train, this is the DLR or something like that. That day we went during the day when it was busy, and I remember it was an unfamiliar situation, but I've taught him a middle command where he would go in between my legs and he'd stay there. And because normally when the train is empty or it's not that busy, he likes to just lay down. And obviously it wasn't ideal, he couldn't lay down anyway, so he didn't really know what to do. It also helps you with people who aren't that comfortable with dogs. So yeah, told him middle, he went to middle, he stayed there for most of the tube ride. And yeah, I mean, in those situations, it's quite practical. It's ideal, actually. So now you're at the end of the video and you're probably wondering, so what do I think? What do I do? What have I done in the past with Apollo? And some of you are probably thinking, you've said yes to some things, no to some other things. You've given us pros, you've given us cons. So what I would recommend is teaching your dog the basics of communication. So your sit, your stay, your break, crate, place. Those are in my mind, your essentials. However, most of the time, the sit, for example, can be done without communication. For example, if you're walking alone and you've shown your dog that your expectation is for them, when you stop, the dog stops and the dog sits, that's an auto sit, right? And if you've trained your dog that is what the expectation is, there is no need for you to say, right, Apollo, now sit. So sometimes I believe it's beneficial for you to teach them the command, and they'll know how to do it. But after a while, I also recommend to teach them auto sit, like I just said. There are also other elements that aren't necessarily commands, but more day-to-day expectations. For example, like I said, the auto sit. pulling on a lead, you wouldn't want that. Thresholds, that's going through doors. Does the dog wait for you to go through a door before you go? That's another thing. Another point I mentioned as to, what I would recommend is for the extra bits, for the, bang bang, dead. Those I would recommend as a pastime, as a, they'll still get mentally stimulated, don't get me wrong, because it's something new they're learning. That's more of a hobby, more of a fun thing to do with your dog. One other thing I would just keep in mind, and I've heard of this before, is treat your dog how you would want the dog to behave for 23 hours of the day. Don't expect to do an hour's worth of training, where hopefully you're not doing an hour's because the dog will get bored. But for example, you're not doing an hour's worth of training and expect them to behave like that if you're not going to act like that for the rest of the day. Treat your dog how you expect the dog to be treated for the whole day or majority of the day. Don't set up an expectation and then get frustrated later on when they're not doing something that you wanted them to do within that hour, but you're not doing it. One example is thresholds and auto sit. If you want them to behave in that certain way on the dog walk, you have to practice it from the very beginning of the walk. Are you making them sit down before you leave the door? Are you making them wait before you go out through the door? If you live in a flat, are they waiting for you to go through each individual door? I think there's 3 different doors before I actually get outside. Is he waiting at each one? I'm not going to expect it from him from one door out of the 3, because then in a way it's kind of cruel to the dog, because they wouldn't know what door or what threshold am I supposed to be doing. Am I supposed to be doing it for some and then not others? In reality, you'd want them to do it for all of them. And then the last thing I'd say is there are a lot of trainers out there who specialize in obedience training. And I think there is a time and a place for dog trainers. What I've done personally, when Apollo was a puppy, we went to a dog trainer. We had sessions, I think it was about 10 sessions. And the one thing I really, really loved, when we booked the training sessions, it was in a group setting where, that's ideal for your dog. So when they're a puppy, you want them to kind of be unfazed by other dogs, which I thought was great by doing it in a group setting. The second thing is, at every single weekend, we got the opportunity to go on a social walk. So there'll be a lot of dogs, and the expectation is, you nicely on the lead, the dog doesn't get frustrated on the lead, and it's a way for the dog to, again, practice those manners around other dogs. In those training sessions that I've mentioned before, we learned the different commands, but it was also a way for us to learn, because we also got that understanding of, the dog is building a bond with us whilst we're doing that. That was a very beneficial thing, and for us to learn why certain things were working, why certain things aren't working, because 100% you can learn all the things that you wanted to learn on YouTube, on different blogs, on Google. You can learn as much as you want. I think until you have someone who has been doing it for a number of years, it's a lot more different getting it live and direct and getting feedback then and there, rather than going to your video, trying it, not working out, not knowing why it's not working out, and then going back to the video or Google again and trying to understand. Having a trainer helps you bridge that gap a lot quicker, where you'll learn something, or why isn't it working? This is why it's not working. Or why is Apollo acting in this way? This is why he's acting in this way. So that's the end of the video for today, guys. I hope you guys liked it. It's a bit of more of a different, informative kind of video. So for the future, I want to make some videos on maybe some more specific dog training, similar to the one where I was teaching around. It's on YouTube. But yeah, if you guys have any other questions that you guys want me to answer specific to this video, or maybe specific to, for example, like puppy training or potty training, or maybe the puppy stages, what we do with Apollo now. If you guys want a breakdown of that, I'm more than happy to give it to you guys. So yeah, bye.